Hello, everyone. Welcome to the r/Indieheads podcast. I'm your host, Matty, aka Recon G. On this week's podcast, we have
Keaton or Stonesome's Tooth and Can.
And Will, use your will for thrill.
So yeah, welcome back to the podcast. Hopefully, we can get back on a normal schedule this week, as we have not been able to for like the past couple of weeks, because we had the 1 week where Alex got too busy playing Dark Souls, and we didn't record on the normal time. And then none of us could just make the next podcast, which we barely recorded. But anyways, let's just get into what we listened to this week. I'll start off with I listened to the Postal Service Give Up for the first time this week, and my voice just cracked there. I think it's pretty good. I listened to last week. I was listening to Perils from the Sea by Mark Kozlek and Jimmy Lavelle. I don't think it's Jimmy Lavelle. I think that's his name. And I was like. And I think I was like, I kind of knew about Postal Service. Like, I listened to a few songs. I'm like, yeah, this sounds like Mark Kozlek does the Postal Service. And I'm like, well, I've never listened to Give Up before, so why don't I give that a shot? And I really, really dig it. The songwriting's great. I think this is probably Ben Gibbard in his prime, because this is around like the Transatlanticism era. So this is like when like him and Death Cab for Cutie were just at the top of their of quality. And this album, is no exception. The production is fantastic. There's really great little, indie-tronica and synth pop stuff. It just sounds great. And there's also a little bit, I heard a little bit, at least on the outro, which, what is the name of it? I don't know. I think it's a Natural Anthem, or is that the outro? Anyways, yeah, the outro, which it's like a garage beat.
Anthem, that's it.
Yeah, I think it's like a garage beat or something. It sounds like using like the Amen break or something like that, at least a sample. But yeah, this is great little indie synth pop, and it deserves its its spot as like as like sort of like a modern classic album, because it's pretty impressive. Because I remember like, I don't know if I remember, but I was reading about it, and like it sold 1 million. It went platinum on like a independent label, which is kind of insane, because they were just thinking this album's. Yeah, it went platinum, because you have to remember, in 2004, album sales were a lot different than they are now. Like, in 2004, you could still go platinum first week, easy. Not even 2004, like, '07, or even 2010, you could still go platinum first, or, 2015, since Taylor Swift went platinum first week. But, like, this is when it was still sort of normal to go platinum first week, and most albums were, like, from, like, big popular artists were kind of expected to go platinum. And so this is just a little indie side project that, like, Ben Gibbard and the other guy were just sort of like passing around, like he was giving him beats and Ben Gibbard was giving him the vocals, and it was just sort of like, and that's why it's called the Postal Service, because they just kept passing around music through the mail to like make the album, and yeah, it sold 1 million copies, which like they were just expecting this to be like just like a little side project that like no one would really care about, but it ends up being like probably the biggest thing they ever did in their career.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I really enjoyed it. Probably listened to it a bit more, and yeah, and another album I listened to for the first time, which I probably should have a while ago, the Beach Boys, Pet Sounds. I think someone who was talking about in the chat, like, talking about Pet Sounds.
It was Ethan who brought it up.
Yeah, Ethan was talking about it in the chat, and I'm like, I never actually listened to Pet Sounds, so I went through it, and there's a bunch of different versions of it that have been remastered, and like. I tried listening to one. I was like, okay, I was trying to listen to the first track, which is Wanted to Be Nice. Like the vocal quality was kind of off, and I just kind of was just trying to find the right version. And from what I can tell, the 40th anniversary edition seems to be the best one quality wise. So I've just stuck with that. And oh my god, this is a. Was that a little laugh?
No, I was agreeing with you.
My choice of quality, but yeah, but it seemed to be the best one in terms of quality, and like, Jesus Christ, I mean, I feel like I'm not appreciating this album enough. Like, I feel like there's like tons of little stuff I'm missing, because I was reading about it and just seeing like all these little things he has in there that I don't notice. I'm like, wait a second, that was in there? Like, where is that? So there's tons of little things in this album that like it seems like an album you really have to study and like pick apart all the pieces, because there's so much going on. Because it was one of the first albums to like introduce multi-tracking. The vocal harmonies are fantastic. The songwriting is really great, and I haven't listened to it. And this is the only like Beach Boys album I've listened to, and apparently they have like a really sort of the discography is kind of all over the place. This Pet Sounds is really the first album that most people were like, yeah, this is like their first kind of serious release, and all the other stuff was like novelty albums and whatnot. So yeah, apparently people say Surf's Up is a good album. I think I tried listening to it and I didn't get a chance to I only listened to like the first track. I think I had to go listen to something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, Pet Sounds, yeah, this is a great album, and I need to listen to it a bit more and appreciate all these little things. And I also really want to see the Love and Mercy, the biopic about Brian Wilson, which I've been seeing trailers for, and it looks great. Like, Paul Dano just looks just like Brian Wilson. And John Cusack seems to have picked up like some more of his like modern mannerisms. And yeah, I need to see that movie. I also want to see, going a little off topic, if that's okay, since this is actually going to be probably a short podcast this week. I also want to see Dope, too, which I think is coming out the same day. I see the trailers, it looks good, reviews are good. It seems it's it's hip hop inspired, But yeah,
the movie looks bad though. Is Straight Outta Compton. That does not look good.
I think it looks okay, but I feel like it's being produced by Dre and Ice Cube, and I feel like they're gonna leave out some like bigger things, like they're gonna basically leave out the bad stuff and like basically just make their manager look bad. It's just like, yeah, this is probably, if you want to make a good biopic, you probably want to have it not be biased.
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah,
he looks really dramatic too, just like talking about how they're the biggest thing in the world and just.
Oh yeah. I think maybe they're trying to make it like some like sort of social revolution when they weren't as big of a social revolution as they thought they were back in the day. Like maybe like there's a documentary that VH1 did that I watched a couple weeks ago that's really good. And it's like them, in context, like bringing like, oh yeah, we're starting like a revolution or something. It's like, I don't know. I mean, I think maybe you're definitely, causing a shift in the scene, but
oh yeah,
I don't know if you're at the time. I don't think you guys were causing a revolution.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to say. That word is thrown around far too much. I think personally, I take that word very seriously.
I think they were very, very influential, and they definitely were. Like, I mean, again, they were doing very controversial. I mean, the FBI was going after them at one point, so they definitely were controversial. And
they raised a lot of really interesting questions about law enforcement in a time not like today, where it's a bit more obvious. Although I don't want to get too into that. Yeah. It's like they were raising serious things about the treatment of people in their situations, and that's a valuable like record. Straight Outta Compton is really excellent. Honestly though, as great as it is, it's not as bold as some of the stuff some solo members would do. Like, I found the Ice Cube solo records are much more bold. Like, he just says whatever he wants, and some of it's not that valuable. Some of it's very, very valuable. But yeah, he, I don't know. Great record, not a revolution.
I mean, yeah, anyway, I mean, they were definitely, pretty influential, and they definitely were, like, speaking upon subjects that not many people were talking about, but they definitely weren't as revolutionary as they would in retrospect. But they definitely were, like, it was raising questions about the freedom of speech and whatnot, and just sort of, like, because they were speaking about stuff that was going on in their neighborhoods and whatnot. But
it's also just a great album. I mean, just the music itself.
I mean, yeah, I've never listened to the album, which I probably need to. But
it's definitely
what I love.
One of the best.
What I love about that record, though, sorry to interrupt you, Will, but like the production is conceptual, and I always appreciate that in music. And they really, really knew how to hit it home. Like the places they put gunshots and stuff in the music, it's very, very nuanced and well pulled off.
Because Dr. Dre, in the past couple of years, sometimes he's been getting shit on for not releasing Detox, but it's just sort of like, I mean, Dr. Dre really is a master of his craft. He's extremely dedicated to his craft. Like, I was bringing up, I was talking about with someone online about people who are like really insane in their craft, and Dr. Dre is one of those guys who is really insane in his craft. Like, he spends tons of time just making sure stuff sounds good. Like, a lot of people they praise the mixing and just the general production on the Chronic or the Chronic 2001, or is it the Chronic 2001 or is it just 2001?
It's technically just 2001, but it's called the Chronic 2001.
Okay,
I think.
And people, they praise the mixing because it still sounds fresh today, because Dre really just like spent time like making sure it sounded great and it sounded good. It's just so clear, and maybe that's the reason why Detox is taking so long, is that he really wants to get it right. Because I think I heard one fan theory that was just like, he's been building up verses from a bunch of different rappers over the past couple of years, like people who are just the best in their craft, and just at their prime, you know, like verses from Snoop at his prime, versus from Tupac in his prime, hooks from Nate Dogg in his prime, you know, or Eminem in his prime, you know, Kendrick Lamar, or some of the TDE guys, or anyone who's sort of or 50 Cent in his prime, just anyone who's really worked with Dr. Dre in the past couple years, just kind of building up verses and whatnot. And, you know, yeah. But Dr. Dre, I mean, say what you will as a person, you know, and Beats music and him and D Barnes, but like the music is undeniable. He's extremely influential.
He's the best.
He's one of the best producers. He's one of the best, if not the best producer. I won't say he's the best producer. I don't want to say like he's the best, because it's hard. I really hate saying.
In terms of MCs and producers, he's definitely one of the best.
Yeah, definitely. I think maybe you could probably boil it down to the best West Coast producer of all time.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
I think people could agree on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, Keaton, what'd you listen to this week?
This week, a few things I listened to. I kind of discovered this band called Krill, and for a long time I've been searching for a band similar-ish to early Modest Mouse, especially in the kind of garagey, rougher sounds that they've done. And I just kind of stumbled on this band. They're from Exploding in Sound Records, which had the first Speedy Ortiz release, and Porches, a favorite of mine, is on Impile, who, you know, are more and more gaining traction in the whole post-hardcore scene now. They're on that record label as well. But Krill, they're just really, really excellent. I don't know how much to describe it. Like, they have this certain very nuanced, like, melancholy about the way they approach vocals and just chord structure, and not as much lyrics. Like, I don't think I've really paid too much attention to the lyrics on the record, Lucky Leaves, but I know in a later track it gets real angsty and angry, and I'm a sucker for that stuff, except unless it's like too drenched. But yeah, I don't know. I think this is a really, really excellent record. If you like the Pixies, the vocals are very, very reminiscent of early Pixies, like Purple Tape, Come On Pilgrim era. So yeah, if you're interested in that kind of music, I highly suggest Krill's Lucky Leaves. And then another one, I reapproached one of my favorite Beck releases, and a favorite of many, Sea Change. The first time I listened to it, I thought it was boring. The second time I listened to it, a lot of things popped up that I enjoyed. I like the really all the synth stuff on it. I really love the sounds, but I couldn't listen to it all the way through. And just every time I listened to it and rediscovered it, I liked it a little bit more. And this week, probably listening to it was the first time it really, really hit home for me. It's just a freaking beautiful, beautiful record, really. Beck is someone who really, I think he knows what he's doing when he's doing it. Even in his early stuff where it's just like ridiculously weird, it's clear he wanted to make ridiculously weird music. And obviously this is a song where he really matured and he wanted to start making serious music. And I don't know, I really appreciate this record, as I'm sure many do. This Sea Change, top notch.
Nice. I think I listened. I was trying to get into Beck a few months back, and I only listened to like 2 records from him. I probably need to get more into him because he's got an album coming up. And Sea Change was one of the albums I listened to, and I do need to listen to it a bit more because I feel like because it is a breakup album, and like at the first time I listened to it, it just seemed like some of the stuff was just kind of boring on the first listen. So I feel like I probably need to listen to it a bit more and kind of appreciate it, because like. To compare it to another breakup album, I guess one breakup album I've been listening to a lot in the past couple months was Full Nikura, which is very, Bjork is such an out there vocalist, and the production is so kind of out there also with these, insane drum patterns, and that's kind of like being sort of an opposite to the strings. And while Beck's was a bit more like restrained and nuanced, so
they're in the same vein artistically, though. I think personally. The way they approach music, like the way they actually make music is certainly different. I think the way they approach music is very different. They're actually, from what I understand, pretty close friends, and they've worked together in the past. I don't know. Volnicure, though, that's a great record. I haven't gotten the chance to talk about it on the pod at all, but
Let's talk about it right now. I mean, again, this is gonna be a pretty short podcast in my opinion. So let's just.
Oh
again,
my
guys,
gosh.
I mean, thing is, I think it came out at the perfect time for me because it came out like 2 weeks before I broke up with my girlfriend at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just sort of like, and a funny thing about it was like, I worked for a blog and I was writing a review for it when I was with my girlfriend. Like we were at like a Panera's, and she was with me. I was like, oh god, thinking about that and just like in retrospect, it's like it's just so weird. It's like it's like Björk. She was like, "Don't worry, I know what's gonna happen. I'm an all-seeing eye. I know what's gonna happen to you." Or maybe the all-seeing eye is the chest vagina. I don't know.
It could also be that you two are just destined lovers, and there was a shift. That's a little scandalous, but I
Björk,
mean,
hey Björk, I'm single. Hit me up.
yeah,
Please come
it's
to
him,
see
you,
me.
Bjork.
now.
Hit me up.
But yeah, no, that record creates atmosphere like nothing else. Like I listened to it just headphones pressed in. I was reviewing it for the newspaper I do, and it was at school. And I had just gone into editor position, so I had a bunch of responsibility. I was a very busy guy. I hadn't thought about my personal life that much. But I just put in the headphones and just cranked it and closed my eyes and just like went into the world and just sunk deep into this abyss of a record and just like I don't know, I felt like I came out of it with a better understanding of who I was. That's kind of an over exaggeration in a way, but I definitely felt clearer in my life after listening to that record. And it's just so like the beats and like the percussion sounds in general on that record are just like crafted in a way that it's never been done in my opinion. Like she took percussion to a level I haven't really heard in music, especially like electronic tinged music, and then she combined, an old form of sound, in orchestration, and combined it with electronics, which has been done plenty, but she just didn't the first time I've ever heard that was very, very organic.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I really appreciate that record. I hope it doesn't get overshadowed because people talk about To Pimp a Butterfly album of the year. They talk about Carrie and Lowell album of the year. Volnicure is so good.
I think Volnicure, I like it a bit better than like Carrie and Lowell because Carrie and Lowell, I think I'm gonna try to be careful because I know some people might get mad at me, but Volnicure is just such it's a lot more to me more emotionally striking because I guess I'm more sort of I kind of can relate to the subject matter a bit more, and also it's just so bombastic and very just like out there. I think I described it as the most human Björk has sounded yet.
Oh yeah,
because she for like. Before this record, she had been kind of building up this sort of like, kind of alien-like persona, trying to be kind of she was just going away from like more human subject matter, and she was kind of focusing on more like kind of out there stuff, especially Biophilia, which is just sort of like, which I don't really like Biophilia that much. I think it's kind of boring because I think she focused way too much on the subject matter and like the app and whatnot, and not the music, which is the most important thing of music is the music itself. And I think she just didn't completely focus on that, which I didn't like. Well, Volnicure it goes back to basics basically in terms of lyrics, where it just goes back to something more human, more like it's just she's kind of building up this sort of persona, and then it just sort of like breaks down as the album goes on. Of like, holy shit, she's a real person who has real emotions and real feelings, and things affect her. Yeah, and I think that was just sort of like, I mean, people, they want to say, they want to respect Kendrick Lamar, they want to respect all these guys for really being out there this year, because I think this year has been, a lot of records about depression. This is the year of depression, and I think she may have done it the best in my opinion, because again, I think I liked her again. I think songs like Black Lake, and I think, oh god, I want to talk about Kendrick again real quick. You is my song of the year. Because it's just, God, it's so affecting the delivery, the lyrics, just the sort of atmosphere, sort of like looking at yourself from the third person, kind of like you're self-conscious, like basically yelling at you while he's drinking, and like I even like it's such to me, I can depict you visually, I can depict what's happening. If I had the budget and I had the context, I have such a great music video idea for you. if you would ever make it, in my opinion. Okay, I've made videos before. You know, I did the videos for my school. Like, I have just such a great idea for it.
Yeah.
Which I could maybe I won't explain on here because you know we should probably like get to the
Someone
main
might
topic.
Snatch it too.
Someone
You don't want
snatch it.
anybody to swipe your ideas for
No.
the music video,
No.
unless it's Kendrick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if Kendrick Lamar, hit me up. Okay,
Yeah.
hit me up. I got a
Bjork-
music video idea.
Bjork and Kendrick both. You should meet up with Matty.
Yes, please. But yeah. Anyways, Bjork. Black. You know, it's just so emotionally. It's just heavy, and you just in her delivery and the lyrics. There's just like, it feels it because it feels real. But I think I was discussing this on when the Black Lake video came out, where it's definitely one-sided, because if you read up a bit more on it, you realize that like, oh, she's not really the person I entirely support in this situation, because apparently like Matthew Barney, who was her ex boyfriend, or did they ever get married?
Oh,
I think
they did. Yeah,
But
yeah. It was divorce record, I think.
Yeah, her ex-husband, and basically was suing her because like she wouldn't let him see the kid. So it's like, that's I don't know if I can completely support that. But anyways, again, we're gonna discuss this a little bit on the podcast next week. We're gonna be talking about the separation between artist and art, and we shouldn't get into it right now because we have to save it for Anthony Fantano, who will be on the podcast next week, guys.
Nice plug.
Yay!
But on a final note, talking about biophilia, Karen Lowell, and To Pimp a Butterfly,
You mean Volney Curran?
I think it really shows the way, you know, different artists deal with these, like, huge things in their lives, really huge shifts, you know, moments of depression. You know, obviously Bjork is the kind of person who will just explode with it, and that's what Volney Curran is, even though it's a very, you know, Abyss-like record, and it's very, you know, you're submerged basically in music. It's still such an explosion of emotion. And then, you know, Sufjan, he more takes it as he kind of shrinks down and just purges it and kind of, you know, goes down. And then Kendrick Lamar is very contemplative about it, and he understands exactly what's happening to him, and he fights. And he fights to get it out in the most like conceptual, clever way possible, and just puts it into his music and gets it out there. And they're all so pure, really. But yeah.
So so Will, what did you listen to this week?
I'll keep mine short, but the first album was Crooked Rain by Pavement. I'd listened to Slanted and Enchanted in the past, and I wasn't really impressed. I liked Pavement's sound, but there just weren't any songs in particular that really popped out at me, nothing that really made me want to come back. But after Jeremiah just kept on praising Crooked Rain, the way he does pretty much everything that he likes.
Oh, yeah.
God, 20 minutes on Father John Misty. Jesus Christ.
So anyways, I finally listened to this record, and I'll have to say, I like this a lot better than Slanted and Enchanted. It just, all the songs just are a lot more immediate and enjoyable. It's definitely probably, tied with some of Beck's stuff, it's probably the most 90s music maybe ever made.
Yeah.
So I mean, in that respect, it doesn't hold up, but it's still very enjoyable. I mean, you got Silence Kit, that's a great starter. Stop Breathing, I think that might be my favorite song personally.
Oh, it's heavy.
I've not listened to it, but everyone praises Gold Sounds.
I liked it, but Cut Your Hair is probably, actually I said Stop Breathing, I meant to say Cut Your Hair. That's probably my favorite, just the lightest and most fun single worthy one. And then Hit the Plane Down, that's a really cool one. I was listening to it at work the other day, like when all those like plane sounds were coming, like I thought that was like stuff that was happening around me. I freaked out. That's not important, but yeah, so definitely a record that I should check out if you like really 90s sounding stuff.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'd like to say Silence Kid, the way Stephen Malcolmus like literally just took the sounds of a Buddy Holly song and turned it into his own and like made it its own thing entirely. It's just like really brilliant. It's an interesting way to start a record, in my opinion.
I didn't know that. I'll have to look more into Pavement and throughout their discography, because I actually did really enjoy this record. And my other one, I've lately in the past few months, I've been becoming really interested in noise rock. So naturally, a band that I've kind of started to get into since the last time I was on the podcast about over a month ago is Sonic Youth. I've really been listening to a lot of their music. And this week in particular, I was listening to Sister a lot. I think that Daydream Nation is probably my favorite so far, but Sister is very close second. And it's definitely like the most immediate for me, at least. Because, I mean, by nature, as a noise rock band, they're not very accessible, and it takes several listens to really get it. This is really the only record I've listened to so far by them that really hit me the first listen. I was able to get enjoyability out of it. A lot of people say that Goo is their most accessible record. It's one I started with. And it's definitely more accessible than some of their other stuff, but my recommendation would be Sister. That one was just gave me the most immediate enjoyment. I mean, Schizophrenia is probably might be my favorite song by Sonic Youth. Then you got other songs that are good, like... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, Schizophrenia is the ideal opening track. It's just like those first chords and the kind of the drums on that track almost remind me of Velvet Underground in a way. It's just kind of pattery. I don't know. It's a really good way to get into that record, which is really just a unique record in my opinion because it's very noisy. It's in my opinion it's more noisy than Goo, though Goo definitely has its noisy moments.
Which is probably why people suggested Goo first before Sister. Just because it's less noisy.
Yeah, but like it still has stuff like the later tracks, like Cinderella's Big Score and stuff like that, are very Scooter and Jinx, very like rigid and cacophonous. But like the thing about Sister is like they really like scream and they really strum their guitars hard, but like there's so much really digestible stuff that just tastes
like
good.
There's melodic and there's a lot of like all the chords, the riffs. There's more riffs maybe than any other Sonic Youth album. Mostly it's just strumming dissonant chords, but this one actually has some riffs that you can kind of latch onto.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And then, like I said, Schizophrenia. I wanted to call Schizophrenia a better song than Teenage Riot, just because that's probably their most definitive song. But Schizophrenia might be their best opener, like from doing a job as its opener. That might be their best track. And yeah, there's other great songs here like Stereo Sanctity and Pacific Coast Highway. That's one of my favorite Kim Gordon vocal songs, maybe. That one's just very good. Great work. So, yeah, Sonic Youth Sister. That's my recommendation if you're listening and haven't listened to them before. Don't listen to everyone else. Start with Sister.
I'm listening to the podcast right now. I guess I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, also it's a concept record about science fiction author Philip K. Dick, which is really cool.
Dick.
Ha.
Dick. Okay. You want to keep going, Keaton, or were you done?
Yeah, no, that was it. I mean, I might have had something else to say, but I mean, Dick. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get on to the main topic. The album that we've been wanting to talk about for weeks now. Sun Kill Moon, Universal Themes. I've been begging and begging for weeks. Just find the time to talk about this album. We were going to do it on the In Color podcast, and we're like, probably should just talk about In Color just by itself. Okay, so again, we've been waiting for weeks to talk about this album. We're gonna discuss this album track by track instead of kind of as a whole, because I think this album, all the tracks are just sort of like they're all too massive to just kind of like just talk about them, kind of in passing. We gotta like focus on these tracks like one at a time because there's a lot happening. So we'll start off with the opening track, The Possum, which was released I think a couple months back, and it's the intro to the album. And the song is kind of about Mark Kozilek. He's working in his yard. He finds a possum. Its foot's mangled. He kind of realizes, he kind of connects the dots to something he heard earlier in the day. It was like, oh crap, I think that this cat, some sort of cat, like kind of got in a fight with a possum, and the possum lost. And his girlfriend comes out. She's like, oh, I'm sad, because it's cute. Because he's cute and he's dying. Is that, hire me for your next record, Mark Kozilek. Okay, I can be a backup singer. And then he goes, 10 out of 10?
Yeah.
Best new background singer.
Yes. And then he goes to a Godflesh concert and meets up with the lead singer, and they have fun. He has fun at the concert, and then, yeah.
The guttural B flats.
Guttural B flats. But yeah, what do you guys think of this track? I'll let you guys go first, and I can talk about it. Or who wants to start off talking about the possum?
I'll start off.
Yeah.
I definitely think this is one of the stronger tracks on the album. I mean, he starts with a possum, and I mean, well, first off, I mean, it's like I think this record's almost a satire of Benji, but I'll get to that later. But this song's kind of an obvious example because of all the heavy themes on Benji about human death, and this one he kind of starts with a possum, which is a much kind of, I guess, sillier example.
Mm-hmm.
But still, with the storytelling, he gives it a similar resonance. Maybe not quite as much, but still pretty good. And I guess the something I'm talking about yet is the end of this track, which I think is probably the best moment on the track when he gives that spoken word outro.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like his word choice is good. Like the track takes place on Easter Sunday of last year, and like he uses like I'll just read this last stanza. The old possum lost the fight. His sad black eyes, what a thing to see on a glowing Easter Sunday. But that rodent was loved, and he still thought of. Church bells rang that day. I remember hearing them the afternoon just as we left. He had to have heard them too. And then it just goes into this kind of ornation almost. It sounds kind of like kind of like the introduction to a church service on an organ, but no organ. And it sounds like something you would hear in church on Easter Sunday. And it's also just kind of interesting to me because...
What the heck is that?
That's my phone going off. I'm sorry, I'm an unprofessional.
Unprofessional, Keaton. We're having Fantano on the podcast next week. We can't be having this.
Oh, I'm gonna... I don't know. I might...
Mute your mic.
Yeah.
Just mute your mic, man.
Anyways.
Oh, come on, Keaton. This is a professional podcast. As you were saying, Will.
Oh, but anyways, it's interesting that he's talking about death on Easter Sunday, which is the day of resurrection.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So on a day of reborn life, he's talking about the death of another life, but he's celebrating it.
Yeah.
That's
a really
that was
good observation.
I think it's celebrating its death because it had a long hard fight. It's like it can't it shouldn't be forgotten about.
Anyways, yeah, it's just like kind of euphoria with the outro of the track.
Mm-hmm.
It works well. It's kind of silly, but I liked it.
I think this album, it definitely starts to sort of the trend of like the one thing I really love about this album is that like you said, it's sort of like a satire of Benji. It's sort of just like a fuck you to the people who like found out about him through Benji, like,
which is basically me and you, Matty. So
I found out Benji, and the one reason I like them is because it's experimental. I really enjoy that.
Right, but still, yeah, basically fuck us.
I saw somewhere actually compared it to like a more melodic Jandek, and if you know the music of Jandek, he's like an outsider artist who exclusively plays music on way out of tune guitars. And yeah, I thought that was a really like poignant observation that really described the record well. But continue.
So anyways, with the possum, sorry, my mom came in and I had to mute my mic real quick.
His description of the concert, I mean, it's seemingly irrelevant, and I guess it sort of is. It's just talking about how, I guess, life goes on. It was kind of a description I heard. Mm-hmm. Kind of like, even though like that possum is dying, I mean, it's just kind of insignificant.
I have my own thought
next
on
thing.
But yeah.
I want to continue what I was saying. Is just sort of like an FU to people who like Benji. And I really, because this track especially is a sort of like, it kind of introduces a bunch of the elements that the album is going to have in the future. Let's see, not except for maybe the electrical guitars. That's not, I don't think it's on this track. Maybe it is.
No, there's no electric guitar on this track.
That starts on "With a Sort of Grace I Walked Into the Bathroom to Cry." The first track.
There's a decent amount to talk about with the third track. Definitely
we'll get to that one.
We'll get but yeah. The possum, I like this track because again, it's experimental. It's like he turns up the stream of consciousness type delivery just to like. It was like he kind of started on Among the Leaves. He kind of expanded on Benji, talking about more like. More sort of like, the funny thing is more just sort of like humanness is just sort of his life in general, just looking at his life, just the whole thing. And while this album just sort of looks at more insignificant stuff and more just sort of what's been happening to him in the past, like, couple of years, I guess, like the past maybe like 2 or 3 years, basically. Not like, with Benji, it was just sort of like, no pun intended, more universal, I guess, just talking about his life as a whole and like experiences he's as a child and sort of growing up and all this stuff. And then this track is just like, this is just kind of what happened in my day. I've kind of read
it's
it.
Monday.
It's again this track especially, and all the tracks in this album. It just shows that Mark Huslick is such a great songwriter, in my opinion, that he's able to make the most out of the mundane. As it's just sort of like. It's really, if you give this to basically like 95% of songwriters and like, hey, just talk about your day. Most of them would just be boring and they would fail horribly. But Mark, he just, I don't know, there's just something about his delivery and the way the way he writes lyrics. He just gets it right, and I just kind of like care about these little things he's talking about. And I think he talks about a bit on the album. I don't remember what track it is. It may have been "This Is My First Day" or "Garden of Lavender," where he talks about like he kind of cares more about the small. I think it's Garden of Lavender, where he talks about sort of the small things in life. So yeah. So do you want to talk about Keaton?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The Possum. Like, I started this record. I had loved Benji. I'd listened to it a number of times and I really liked it. I first found Sun Kill Moon because of Tiny Cities, which is a cover album of my favorite band, Modest Mouse Tracks. So I really loved that, and I appreciated him as an artist, but just due to all of the stuff in the media, which I'm sure we'll get to later, I don't know, I stopped having the desire to listen to him. But like from the moment I started listening to the Possum on this record, like I just fell in love. The mixing with the guitars and the guitar overdubs is really interesting, like right off the kick. It's similar to what the Microphones or Phil Elverum did on the Microphones record. It Was Hot, We Stayed in the Water, and he does it all throughout the record. But Mark Kozelek, the way he did it and the way I don't know how much he had his hands in the production, but it was very, very yeah.
He produced it.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But it was well done. He pulled it off really well. It didn't sound like too jittery or clangy in any way. It really just like blended together. And conceptually, lyrically, we talked about Finding the Possum, obviously. And then it goes to the Godflesh concert, and then goes to Easter later on. In a way, I almost feel like him seeing the Godflesh concert, he was connecting what he heard about with the possum and cat fighting with what he felt while watching the Godflesh concert. Just this vicious attack, which if you ever see two animals fighting, whether it be a possum and a cat or just two cats, like it's this weird spectacle. You can't look away, but you don't want to feel good about it, but you're so like pulled in, and that's pretty much exactly what he describes. And in Mark Kozelek's own very skillful way, he just describes this concert so well. And people obviously claim, well, Mark Kozelek is just this narcissistic asshole because he just slanders on other people so much. But there's something also about him, a certain humility to write about other artists in his music, which is something you very, very rarely see. And if you do, it's not pulled off well. But he definitely pulls it off well because he really knows what he's doing. And yeah, he's just like, he delves into the Godflesh concert in a really poignant way. I've probably never heard any songwriter describe another concert in, and connects it to the possum almost as if the Godflesh concert was the cat and the possum fighting, or what he would think it would look like. And I just really, really appreciated that. And the musical shifts are done really well, and those are all throughout the record. And I think Universal Themes is really, it shows Mark Kozelek really, it just shows the way he remembers things, and the way things aren't chronological in his mind. He really connects events by emotion all throughout his life, and that's how he connected Godflesh and the possum, and that's how he connects things all throughout the album, because it may feel like he's jumping to all these different random things, but due to the way he uses musical shifts and chord structures and just the cool things he does with music, and also just the pure subject matter and emotions he feels and the way he describes them so poignantly, it just creates a very, very cohesive track and record as a whole. So that's my thoughts on the Possum. Really a standout opener track.
One final thing to say about the Possum. So if you subscribe to our session, he had Circle Jerk. I made a joke song because Jeremiah, he made a comment in a Flaming Lips Essentials thread, like about his experience with the Flaming Lips, And I made a joke song, and in the Possum, there's the spoken word parts, the more sort of like somber parts, where it kind of just like sort of like I wanna grow old and sort of this like more somber delivery compared to the that goes over more like simplistic and more kind of beautiful like instrumentation.
It's bare.
It's very bare, yeah. And I made it, and I did the spoken word of Jeremiah's comment over the instrumental. And so when I listen to the album on Spotify, it starts off the Possum. It starts off with my version of it, the little 50 seconds. So I can't hear the full version of the Possum if it's not in my iTunes or it's not in my car where I bought the CD. So thank you, Jeremiah, for making that concert and making me not being able to listen to the Possum on Spotify anymore. I don't know how to fix it. If anyone listening, can you please help me? Call me at 622. 555 for HDMI 2. Okay, so let's go to the next track. Birds of Films. This is sort of about
Birds of Flims.
Is it? Wait,
it's spelled Flims.
What?
It was intentionally spelled wrong.
What?
Yeah.
Birds of Flims. Yeah, you're all dyslexic, all of you.
Oh my God,
if you do the first and last letter right, people will read it.
What? Oh my God!
That's a human psychology thing.
Keaton, why?
You're so welcome.
Okay. Anyways, Birds of Flims is what it's called. It's about Mark Huslick's experience shooting Youth by Paolo Sorrentino, where he plays himself in this Italian film about old people in a Switzerland ski camp, and sort of experiences with isolation and kind of being out of his element, and missing his home and being very homesick, and missing his girlfriend and his family and all this stuff. And I'll start off and say this is definitely one of the best tracks on the album, because I think for the people who don't like this record, I think people will at least appreciate Birds of Films. It's the most, I want to say it's probably the most bingey like track, because it sort of has a more sort of like more significant, I guess, subject matter of feeling isolation and being away from family, and just sort of like it hones in more I guess more basic themes that Mark was discussing on Benji. And the instrumentation is great. Kozlik's delivery really does hone, kind of like, it makes it really feel like like kind of lonely and isolated, being around because I've been in situations like that where you're just around these people that you just do not know, and you're like, you just don't know what to do, and it's just sort of like kind of weird being away from people that you love for a long time. I think he was on the set for like 6 or 8 weeks, and it's just sort of like, and that definitely kind of messes with a person, like, hey, you don't get to see this person for a couple weeks, that this person you usually see a lot. I mean,
you're gonna feel things from that.
You feel things from it, and then it sort of talks about kind of coming back home and just feeling like this is where I should be, like this feels right. And compared to Benji, it's really nice to see Mark like happy on this album, or at least and like not all the tracks, because there's definitely tracks where he's really sad, but like towards the end of this track, and then somewhat on the Possum, and then on Alley Such Sphinx 2, and then on This Is My First Day. These are the tracks where he's happy. Like, he's happy to, to have people in his life. He's happy to have his girlfriend. He's happy to have, his family that loves and supports him. He's happy to have, lots of friends. And he's just, he appreciates life. And that's just, like, really, comforting. It's like, yeah, Mark, yeah. I feel you, man. I feel you.
I think you hit the nail on the head with this track. It's tied with another track that I'll talk about later for my favorite song on the album. It is definitely the most Benji-like. It is definitely an instrumentation, because he does a lot of strumming on this record, but on Benji he had a lot of finger picking. So you get the finger picking here, and it's very, very rhythmic. It's kind of repetitive and rhythmic, and I really like that a lot about it. And yeah, like you said, just the themes of isolation are kind of a little bit more resonant, and just talking about being on a film set, just a little bit more glamorous and interesting than talking about a possum dying in your backyard. I don't know. So it's kind of more interesting in that respect. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it just, I don't have much more to say about it, but yeah, it's probably one of my favorites. Just because there's so little to say about it, because it just says everything for itself. Mm-hmm. There's not many dots to connect here.
And yeah, that's the thing with this album, is that again, he just lays it all out there. It's just like,
oh yeah,
I mean, compared to Benji, it's just, you can really discuss emotions. This album is just sort of like, it's, again, very stream of consciousness. It's like if Holden Caulfield grew up and made an album, basically.
That's a perfect description of this record, honestly. There's another time. You hit the nail on the head there, Matty.
Thank you. Like I said, just not a lot to talk about here on this track, because he just lays it all out.
And were you going to say anything, Keaton?
As far as the instrumentation goes on this specific song, it felt so Renaissance, and I really love that. And I think that's the perfect way to like approach this song, because he's on a film set, so he just makes this song that sounds so very like Victorian, something a really pretentious like drama kid would imagine himself in the background, acting to. But it's still so poignant and bare, like Benji was. And I think the thing about Benji, as we've kind of been beating around here, is that Benji's very bare, and it's very relatable in a way, but it still holds these intimate things where he's telling a story, because it's very much a folk record. He's telling stories, but they have this like little glamour, this little amount of just intrigue, really. They're intriguing in a way. And so you can listen to him talking about the first time he ever watched, the Led Zeppelin movie, The Songs Remain the Same, and you can feel like, oh wow, this is a cool story, but I relate to you in all these different ways. And he does that on this song, and it's possibly the only song he does it on in the record. And I don't know, this is probably the first song where the really interesting vocal overdubs start coming in.
Right, that's actually one more thing I want to talk about. Mm-hmm. At the end, like in the verse, like at the end of the song, it talks about being in New Orleans. There's a lot of backing vocals, and at the end of each kind of line, each phrase, he'll have a backing vocals. I think maybe or some of them by him. Are they other people that he brought in to do the vocals? I don't know. They're all just saying really mundane stuff. Like, let me look up some of the lyrics here. But like, I don't know. He just like talks about being in New Orleans, like going to the gym and like what he ordered. Then he'll have people really dramatically repeating what he said, and that's just kind of funny to me. But it works.
Yeah. That's totally true. It's such like a weird thing. You don't know how to react to it, because just the way his vocals are, it feels very like melancholy. He feels like he's just dumping his stuff out there.
Right. But he's actually
taken
just
seriously.
Being in New Orleans and having a good time.
Yeah, and like
this is the second time I've seen an artist, I guess, talk about New Orleans and how much they love it. Like Hannibal Buress talked about it in his stand-up set and said like, people. I think in his AMA he was like, why don't you move to New Orleans? He's like, because I would just basically die there. Like I would get drunk every day, and that would just be my plan. I wouldn't get anything done. Just get drunk, throw a parade. There you go.
I mean, he talks about it a lot. Does Mark have a house in New Orleans? Because he on this record and in Benji, he talks a good deal about being in New Orleans.
I think he has friends there, and Ali Speaks. He also talks about being in New Orleans.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so it's just sort of like But again, I think my final thing I want to say with this track was there something I wanted to talk about something like I kind of like. I mean, again, it's also kind of talks about sort of the absurdity in this situation. Like, it's like, how the hell did I end up playing myself in an Italian film? It's just sort of like, this is my life, I guess. Like, And also connection to what we've been listening to. He talks about talking with Paul Dano, and then of course Paul Dano is playing Brian Wilson in Love and Mercy, who Brian Wilson was. And there's connection. Illuminati confirmed.
Hey, I'm now.
Okay, but okay, do we go to the next track?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. With a sort of grace, I walk to the bathroom to cry.
Favorite track on the album.
Wait. Oh, really?
Are you being serious?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy.
I'm sorry. I love this.
I'll let Keaton take the reins. I'm going to let Keaton take the reins.
Well, I mean, okay. I won't call it my favorite track on the album. I'll definitely say musically it's my favorite track on the album, because he was able to just step right out of what he's always done and just violate every expectation for what a Sun Kill Moon record sounds like, and I think he pulls it off really, really well. The guitar honestly reminds me so much of Neil Young and Crazy Horse, which they did the exact same thing. Harvest came out and all of these new fans of Neil Young started coming to his concert, and they were just like, wow, look at this guy, he makes this incredible folk music, I'm so happy to be hearing folk music again. And then he's like, oh, I have this new band called Crazy Horse, and just blast this like garage rock deep stuff. And like, you know, Mark Kozelek did just the same thing, and I don't know, I really appreciate this. And this is the song I'm always most excited to hear on the record.
Because I remember the first time I listened to this track, I was like, what the fuck is this? What is with this delivery? What
he's slurring every word.
He's slurring every word.
Every word he slurs.
Like, who let Mark Kozelek record this? Like, they should have taken him home. It's like, dude, you're drunk. Go home, dude. God damn.
Yeah.
Like, but with repeated listens, you really like go, okay, delivery, it works on this track because it's just sort of like is he drunk in the song? Like, I feel like he has to be.
It's a long song.
Oh
so
yeah,
it's probably at some point.
He has to be drunk.
He's a lot of things in the
how much he says "fuck" in this song, and how much he's just talking about how much he fucking loves his friend Teresa. He's drunk.
And I think it's just like it's a drunk person rambling the song. I think on Twitter, whenever I was listening on my first listens, I was like, this is probably the best song title to the worst song of 2015. But no, I really love the song though, because it's just sort of like the delivery. If the lyrics on the Possum and Birds of Flims weren't like just like okay, it's just sort of like it kind of leads you in. It's like, okay, this is kind of different. Like, it's more sort of like stream of consciousness and not like honing in, being more focused, or well, I guess being more like sort of being more like sort of like just focusing on like these big moments in his life. This it's like, dude, the electric guitars come in, you're like, what the heck is this? And then he starts like slurring his words in this weird delivery. It's like, what is happening? It's basically, I feel like he made this album is just sort of like, just to kind of test his new fans. Like, do you really like me? Or like,
shit hits the fan, will you be a fan?
And shit hit the fan. Okay, but I really do love this track. I think my favorite part is not the drunk delivery. It's the more sort of like somber moments where he's just sort of like, it's kind of like
all Beatles.
It's like the Hangover, basically. The Hangover part of the song where he's sort of like talking about his friend and just sort of being like, I grew up with my friend, just thinking about all these great memories he had with her, and just being sad that like that she's sick and she has kids, and it's just sort of like when you really focus on the lyrics and when you kind of get past the delivery, it's like this is a really emotionally striking track. Like, he's really talking about like someone in his life. If it wasn't for the delivery, if it wasn't for the electrical guitars, I think the song would fit probably like perfectly on Benji, like lyrics wise.
Yeah, I think so.
Because like he talked about similar things on Benji, like talking about like friends dying and whatnot and being sick. So it's not like this is like different in that regard. Which you didn't really talk about this track much. You want to talk about it a little bit? Yeah,
well, I say like you said, like you feel those first two tracks, especially Birds of Flims, which is probably the most like serene track on the album, and then all just kind of just the abrasive electric guitars come in out of nowhere, and then that really brings you in. And then I do love his vocal delivery, how like impassioned and strained it is. But like really just my problem with this track, it all just comes down to the fact that you can't really understand what he's saying without having a lyric sheet in front of you, and that's probably like one of, if not the most important parts of a Sun Kil Moon song is the lyrics. Yeah. So ultimately, that's just the biggest problem for me, is that like, and also something we haven't talked about, like these are long songs. The tracks here are extremely long. This is a 70-minute album with 8 tracks, and this track is 9 minutes and 47 seconds. So while I do love the instrumentation and his vocal delivery, I have trouble with understanding the lyrics. So listening to the track for 9 minutes and 47 seconds can be kind of a struggle. Oh yeah, it makes it kind of one of my least favorite tracks just for that reason.
Yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from on that.
Yeah, and Matty, you mentioned on this track how like when he's talking about his friend and the guitars, I already mentioned, almost feel like some of the lazier Beatles songs, very George Harrison-esque, or more John Lennon's lead style. Like, it's so sloppily played. Like, if you listen closely, it's clear that he's like borrowing certain things, but like not getting them all quite right, and just like he's just playing it sloppy as hell, and his voice all of a sudden gets very like low. So conceptually, if we're playing with the idea of him being drunk here, I would say that's like perfect because it goes into that. Yeah, it goes into that hangover, and then he's like, fuck it, the only way I can take care of this hangover is to get drunk again. And then he starts drinking, it gets all heavy again. He just starts shouting and slurring his words again. I don't know. It's in a really weird way, in a very rageful way. It's a really fun track. I don't know. Personally, it's the track I have the most fun on.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I guess we'll go to the next track. You guys good with that? Okay. The next track, Crimea River, Williamsburg Sleeve Tattoo Blues. This is probably like of the album. This is like if with Soda Grace, musically it's the biggest fuck you, but Crimea River is the biggest fuck you lyrically. Like,
oh, no doubt.
It's like just making fun of these fans who are just like, I didn't get the right seats and I have to stand, and it's like he didn't play these songs that I like, and he was just kind of an asshole on stage, and it's like, and then Mark kind of goes on this little rant of like, okay, you should be happy where you're at in life. Like, you're doing pretty good, okay? Like, compared to people I've known or people I've heard about, you're doing pretty well. So I wouldn't whine about these little things as much. Like, appreciate your life a little bit, asshole.
Yeah, this like next to Birds of Flims, this is my next favorite track of the album. And I guess I appreciated Birds of Flims because it's more like Benji, and I appreciate this track because it's very universal themes. This is, it definitely is a kind of fuck you to fans. It's Mark Kozlek's take on the blues, as he says in the title. So instrumentally, I find it very interesting. It's his take on blues, and he's telling all these stories, tragic stories about Billy, born with a birth deficit, who got dropped by the nurses and died. About the kid who got shot, then the boxer.
Yeah, the tortured kids.
Yeah, basically just talking about young people that got fucked, and then there's just a lot, and then like it just gets silly. It's kind of silly, but also serious at the same time. Like when he talks, like you go quack 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 quack. What the fuck? Why is he saying that? I don't know why.
Yeah,
I never figured out what that has to do with anything, but it goes kind of the silliness. Like he's like in a weird way having a good time when he makes this track.
I mean, it's just like he's just shooting the shit basically.
But because I mean, like based on stage presence, he's a troll. That's pretty much what he is. And this track is pretty much trolling. So he's having a ball on this one, and you have a ball listening to it.
Yeah, it's a funny track to listen to. Like it's funny and like it kind of sucks, and just sort of being like, yeah, some of these fans like just enjoy, appreciate your life a little bit, sort of appreciate what's going on, like just. Because like to me, I rarely go to concerts because like, I just parents and whatnot, and so when I go to a concert, like I'm gonna appreciate that concert a little bit. Like I'm not gonna be like, oh you didn't play so and so. Like I'm gonna be like, I'm just happy to be able to see this artist that I love. So and also this track, I think this track kind of highlights probably like besides with the Soda Grace, I think this also highlights kind of some people's flaws with the album, where in the track you hear a cell phone go off. You really hear a cell phone go.
I've never thought that. At what point does the cell phone go off?
I think it's like, I want to say it's like 3 minutes in. I'm not.
I'll have to check it out because
it goes off in the end too. It goes off twice. It goes off in the end.
I've never heard it.
Oh boy, but yeah, this track it's kind of lazy, but like in a good way, I guess. Like I think this album in general is just it's kind of lazy in its songwriting because it's just so like. It's stream of consciousness, which again
also was put together very soon after Benji.
Put together came out like a little over a year, like not even a little over a year after Benji, and it's just I think it's like a year and 3 months after Benji.
And he mentions a lot of events like he's talking about New Year's Day and referencing stuff like this year's Sugar Bowl matchup. Like that makes it very much like he wrote this song just a few months ago.
So just very kind of quick release.
In that interview with LP. Took place in March, which means that he had the album recorded. So he wrote a song on New Year's Day, so maybe a few days after that, and he had
I think that
by the middle of March.
On the last track, he talks about like February 23rd, like he did a concert with Ben Gibbard, which we'll get to towards the end because it's the last track. But like, yeah, this album it seems like it's very kind of quickly put together, and I think it's kind of like adds a bit more to it, where it's just sort of like, I just want to get an album out, I guess. Like, I'm going to try out this new style, and I think, kind of this quick release kind of really, it's sort of like, I think it's just, it's just like more music for touring and like kind of willing to experiment a little bit. Like, Benji, he gets all these new fans. He's like, and probably more money, I guess, and like more fame. He's like, okay, I kind of want to let me do something a little different. Let me just kind of, change expectations up a little bit, where people are kind of expecting this more, another Benji album. Let me just kind of change things up and let me try, this. Let me just like expand on the songwriting style I've been trying to, work on, and kind of try out some new instrumentation that I haven't really done in a long time. So yeah, and I do enjoy this track. But yeah, it definitely highlights some of the like laziness in the album, where a cell phone literally goes off in the track. If anything, it's one of the funniest things about the track. It's like he really doesn't care. Like, that's how much he doesn't care or doesn't give a fuck. Again, cell phone goes off. Whatever. It's part of the song. Whatever. I don't care.
Yeah, if my phone goes off and it's part of the podcast, oh, you're unprofessional. If Mark Kozlik's phone goes off, you're like, hey, he's a genius.
He's a genius. Yeah.
I hate Keaton's. I mean, I'd be less mad if you weren't. If I was the one who was interrupted, I would probably praise your artistic integrity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, this song, really, really great. I mean, just on a lot of levels, it stands out. It's one of the standout tracks for sure. And what I love about it, you mentioned, Will, how this is like his take on blues. I love how it shows you just the kind of person Mark Kozlik is. How he's a very contemplative person, obviously. You can hear all throughout his music. He has mourning and melancholy and stuff. But like when he takes something like blues, where people are usually just going on about, the bad stuff in their life, he's cynical. He's cynical all the way. And he's just like, oh, you could be a little kid getting tortured, but no, you're not. You're seeing my concert, so shut the fuck up. And I just like, I don't know, I really appreciate that. And like we talk about how in a lot of ways, because of that, this song is fun conceptually, but it still has that grit, a lot of blues music does. He pulls it off really well. And like listening to it and just like taking it in, it's still quite a heavy experience, even though it's very cynical and it's just Mark Kozlik going off. I think it has this rolling quality that kind of pulls a listener in and makes them feel, I don't know, this deep kind of dread in a way that I really appreciate that he was able to do, and still have like a fun track where he's just like, shut the hell up, doing his Mark Kozlik stuff. But yeah, I don't know. That's my thoughts on it.
So yeah, is there any more you want to talk about this track?
Next.
Okay, so let's go on to the next track, Little Rascals, which is actually my favorite song on the album. It's just sort of kind of, I think it's probably like maybe subject matter wise probably the most unfocused, I guess, because I mean, while I love this track and it's my favorite on the album, I can't really tell you what it's about, honestly. I think I can tell you about certain things, I guess, on the album. It's sort of by flying, just kind of like, playing music with friends, and and he talks about his girlfriend a few years ago who died at the age of 34, which is just sort of like, and when people say this album isn't like it's not as emotional as Benji, or it's like he still talks about some pretty emotional things on Benji. I think the difference with Benji is that he focuses in on these emotional things, where on this album it's just sort of like set pieces, I guess, where it's just sort of like. He's just talking about, his life in general, and then occasionally there's sad things that happen, while Benji was like, let me just focus on the sad things. And I think I made a review. I wrote a review a couple weeks ago about this album, and Benji is like, here we go. We're looking at Mark. We find Mark Kozlik's diary. Okay, we find it. Okay, Benji is like the singles. It's like the really juicy, like. This is like really emotionally effective stuff. Like, yeah, this is perfect.
There's the tear-stained pages right here.
The tear-stained pages, and while this album is just more of like his normal diary entries, like, oh yeah, there's just stuff going on. Then maybe he'll talk about like something more emotional because he's kind of a melancholy person. But it's mainly just about his life in general, not like focusing on on the sad things. But actually, kind of like I think it's a little inspirational that like he's not gonna like completely focus on all these sad things and let it consume him. He's gonna realize. I'm really blessed to be alive. I'm really happy to have all these people in my life who love me. I'm really happy to be making music. I'm like making a living doing music and touring and kind of all these great things. And it's like, yeah, this. But again, this track, I love it. The instrumentation is fantastic. The heavy acoustic guitars, and it's like, and his delivery where it's just sort of like more aggressive, but not like with a sort of grace where he's like screaming or like being all sore, but this is very focused. And then the little instrumental parts where it's like din 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 din, din, it's like the kind of like interludes, I guess. Like you know more about like music description, like kind of like chord progressions, I guess.
Yeah.
And where it kind of like goes more just sort of like plays these repeating chords. It's sort of like a swan song even, where it just sort of repeats and repeats and repeats, and and it's sort of like these more like ambient vocals are in the background of him just sort of being like, sort of like kind of like just more graceful. It's like, holy shit, like this is wow. But yeah, this is definitely my favorite track on the album. Just the instrumentation is fantastic. The lyrics are really good, well written. The guitars are great. It's just my great track. It's my favorite track on the album, and it's one of my favorite songs of the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that swan song end part that you mentioned, like that's another part where the overdubbing is just done masterfully, like so well. The way he layers every different like chord, and he'll play the same chord, but maybe he'll exclude one note, or he'll not press down hard as on the strings as he did before, and then he'll record that and put it just like a millisecond after the other one. It just creates this weird sweeping thing that I don't know, it's not done well musically when it's recorded by somebody all by themselves. Like, I praise Mark Kozelek's production capabilities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like I remember reading an interview around the Among the Leafs era where he was talking about like, hey, you produced this album, do you think you'll do more production in the future? He's like kind of like, yeah, when I get done with doing more songwriting stuff, I'll definitely do a lot more production. And like, I think something like, I really hope he does more production for other artists like after this, like when he kind of gets done doing albums himself, because he's, again, with this song and this album especially, he's just a fantastic producer.
Hey, Mark Kozelek, would you review my record, please? Or not review, you could do that too, but I mean, it'd be great if you could produce it.
Please produce a record, of course, but he's got some steep competition now. John Congleton, our good friend.
Oh yeah, that's true. Ooh. I have more accessibility, so Mark Kozelek, I mean, might have to put your dukes up. Maybe say John Congleton suck my cock a bit.
Okay, no. John, we love you, man. Congratulations on your Grammy. You just recently got it. The actual Grammy itself. You did some. I think he did. Which I'm gonna talk about this. Quick little segue, real quick. Just kind of getting a little off topic. I think I said last week that the news, we're going to start doing it like as a YouTube segment, and it should be going up soon. Probably record it tomorrow and then put it up around the time of the podcast. And yeah, and John Congleton, he produced the new FFS record, which is like Franz Ferdinand and Sparks. But let's get back to the song. Will, what do you think of Little Rascals?
I mean, it's definitely not one of my favorites on the track, but I mean, I do love the instrumentation here, just because it reminds me of some of my favorite tracks on Benji. My favorite tracks on Benji were the more brooding ones, more kind of like a Dogs and Pray for Newtown and Richard Ramirez Died of Natural Causes. Ones are just kind of dark and menacing, and this one definitely had the instrumentation that was most reminiscent of those songs. Mm-hmm. But like you said, it is very lyrically unfocused. And there's one moment on here, like the part at the beginning, he talks about his girlfriend dying. It's kind of one off. It is one of the kind of moments that like you might have been your mind might have been like drifting a little bit, but then as soon as he mentions that, you're sucked right back in. It does make you wonder how much Mark Kozelek truly does understand the human condition, how much he's almost trolling us to an extent. Just because like death is kind of a manipulative emotion and grieving. Just because it kind of just as soon as like he was just rambling about flying, but then he mentions death and it sucks you right back in. And it makes you wonder if Benji had been about anything else, would have been so great. And it just kind of makes you think. Mm-hmm. No real conclusions there. Just kind of makes you wonder: is Mark Kozelek trolling, even in making fantastic music? Is he inadvertently trolling us?
Oh, yeah,
because he knows
manipulating
us. He knows we'll eat this shit up because he's just talking about death, and we are talking about death or whatever.
Again, Mark Kozelek, he's again, this album especially, he talks about death a lot. I think almost every track has a mention about death somewhere in it. The Possum dying. Did Birds of Flims have a mention of death somewhere? Probably did.
I'm pretty sure somewhere in there.
It talks about either people who are dead or dying. Like, with the Sword Girls, Walk to the Bathroom Cry, it talks about, his friend dying. or sorry, who's slowly dying, and then Cry Me a River is about people who are people who died young. This Little Rascal's talking about his girlfriend who died. Garden of Lavender talks about his lavender dying and drying up. Alicia Spinks too. Someone probably dies in the track. This is my first day. I'm in Indiana, and I work at the gas station.
His dad's friend died, I think. That's the one.
And now he Spinks?
I think so. That's when his dad's old friend died on Christmas Day.
There you go, death. Mark Hoslick, he should just call us out Universal Themes, a.k.a. Just a lot of death, man.
I mean, it's still not as much as Benji, though.
Oh, yeah, definitely not as much as Benji. Jesus Christ.
Still, the point is, I wonder if you think about the death just because he knows how much we love it.
Yeah.
How much reclaim that'll bring him.
It could be that, or, just to give, almost to play devil's advocate in this, conversation for Mark Kozelek, it may just because that is such a universal theme. Like, there honestly isn't a day in many people's lives where they don't think about it at least once. It's always lurking, when is this going to end? When is all of this going to end? Whether you want it or you don't, like, it's there. It's always lurking. And there are points where I feel like he is almost using it as a tool to gain the listener's ear much more, and like, wow, this guy sings about death a lot, I want to listen to his music. But I don't know, I think there is at least a little bit of a sincerity in his frequent use of death, because he's getting later in his life. He had a successful career in the 90s. Yeah, I mean, and like, less healthy. I think he sings about his health a little bit in this record and how he tried to get more healthy. I know he talked about it in interviews, but like, I don't know, I think Mark Kozelek's reaching the age where he realizes, it's getting closer, and maybe that's why he doesn't. And we should point out that during the Red House Painters days, he did say a lot of shit on stage. He's never really cared, and he's always said absurd things. But I feel like now it's at the expense of others a bit more, because in a way he feels like a need for self-deprecation, but also now just because he doesn't care and he knows this is coming to an end, so he's putting out the music, what's on his mind. He puts it out raw and pure, which is why Universal Themes is really just a record about the beauty and torture that lies in all mundane things, and how much our lives are mundane things, and we just ignore it because we're more interested in things like death and love, when really things like tying your shoe are still a part of every day of your life, and all these different things that happen. You saw a possum and it had a hurt foot, and you have a girlfriend and you love her, but you talk about these experiences with your girlfriend and stuff like that exists, and you can't deny that. And this is one of the first times I've ever successfully heard a record just talk about those things and how those are still beautiful, and life is still such a really incredible thing, even though those exist, and he's not ignorant of them in his art. He like lets them be in his art, which I appreciate, and which is why I'll say it now, just because I'm into this already. This is basically what I most wanted to say in this review. This is such a good record. I really appreciate this record, and it's quite possibly my album of the year. I've been hesitant to say that, but Universal Themes really applies to my philosophy and my personal beliefs on what life is about. And for that reason alone, this is an important record to me.
Ooh. I think it's been slowly climbing up my favorite albums of the year list. I think I put it as number 8 like a couple weeks ago, and I think now it's probably like higher than that.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I said earlier, I think again he makes the most out of the mundane. I think in his interview with LP, he was talking about how like he sees like little things in his everyday life that like not everyone talks about. He's like, I just want to talk about these little things because and I think he also mentioned on Garden of Lavender, which is a perfect transition to talking about Garden of Lavender, where he has a lyric about it's like, I've always focused on like the little things in life and kind of the more insignificant stuff, and just sort of like focusing on that. And I think in this album and this next year, Garden of Lavender does a really great job of talking about that. And also Garden of Lavender really, really speaks to me, because my job, or one of my jobs, is watering flowers, and then seeing flowers that like aren't taken care of very well. It's like, oh god, it's like I'm just trying to like just like survive plants, just look good, okay? It's my job.
My dad's really into gardening, so I definitely feel that. And I love seeing plants and looking at plants. So I'll look at one of his plants and it'll be looking, less good. And I'll be like, no, be better. Let me sing Garden of Lavender for you. Maybe you'll feel better.
But yeah, this track actually I don't really have much to talk about with this track. I mean, I think it actually is the longest track on this album. Yeah, I think it may be my least favorite track on the album too, in my opinion, just because like it is kind of more slow and kind of boring, and like while I do relate to the subject matter, it's just sort of like, it's just kind of, to me. Like it's still a really good track, but it's just sort of like it's definitely my least favorite, just because it's kind of more boring and slow, and it's like 10 minutes. Like I don't know if it's really worth if it's really worth 10 minutes of my time.
And this one has a whole lot of that, like, nothing. Like, there's a line, and ate at a Polish restaurant down the street. Like, just, he throws that in there, guess what? Ate at a Polish restaurant. I just love that.
It's probably the most, I guess, the track that you would call filler. It's just like, okay, I need, like, one more song for this record, I guess.
They really didn't, because it would have been an hour without it.
I mean, yeah. It's like a Garden of Lavender, yeah, I'll talk about my Garden of Lavender. It's like just like okay, it's drying up. I need to help it. But because like I said, like with the other tracks, I can talk about it a bit more. But like this track, I'm trying to remember things about it, and I really don't remember a whole lot about it.
He talks about nature a lot. This is when he brings up a lot of kitty cats. He calls them.
Oh yeah.
Too.
The possum comes, or a possum comes back as well.
And he also talks about going. He talks a little bit about being in the film again.
Mm-hmm.
He goes back to there. I agree with you. This is probably my least, along with the Sword of Grace. This one's probably my least, just because, like I said, it is just kind of more boring and it's just themes. I mean, the main themes are about talking about is Garden of Lavender, talking about just nature in general. Nature is a big, is another universal theme on this album. He talks about nature a lot in this song specifically. And then he goes back to talking about being on the film, but as I said, we already got that up on Birds of Flims. He did a great job on that one. We didn't really need it again. And yeah, this one just doesn't really resonate with me as much.
Mm-hmm. Well, personally, like, obviously, I gave it the Shining Album of the Year sticker. As for now, I don't know what other records are gonna
even
affect
Kendrick
me.
Lamar. I know you were really.
Oh yeah. Honestly, yeah. I've listened to that record so much. I would say Kendrick Lamar is my hip hop album of the year, and this is just my album of the year. But yeah, Garden of Lavender, what I really appreciate about it is that he kind of, it shows how solipsist his music is, but how he tries to be empathetic, because he actually is talking about this Garden of Lavender as if it's a living thing, and he shows that he cares about it, and he's trying to keep it alive. Like it's almost like a weird hospital thing. Like he's a doctor, and this is one of his patients, and he's just trying to keep it alive, just stay alive for me. And it's very, I don't know, it's touching to me personally, because I like plants a lot. I'm kind of a hippie, and I really appreciate all forms of living things, and to see him kind of try to get to that is great. And I don't know, there's banjo on it at one point, and I appreciate that. So musically, it's good.
That was interesting.
And I don't know, there's just all of these. It's definitely scattered. Like he's talking about when he was a child one minute, and then all of a sudden he's talking about Holland and dinner with a concert promoter, and then he's just jumping somewhere else back to the lavender, and I don't know, it's very scattered. He can't stick to one place at one time.
It's sort of like a contrast to Little Rascal. Little Rascal's where it's unfocused, but the instrumentation and just the general production, just kind of the emotional delivery really saves it. In this track, it's just more sort of like, it's a lot more somber, I guess, which I don't want to mistake, which again kind of leads it to be a bit more boring, but it's more somber, kind of just talking about it's just sort of like going through the motions, I guess, of life and whatnot. Just, this is my job, and kind of maybe thinking about certain things. Like maybe this track, it just seems like he wrote it while he was on a flight or something.
Yeah.
Just kind of thinking about, what's going on.
The track starts out with the line, was on a flight home from, well, it doesn't matter. And I think that really describes the track as a whole, because, he's flying home and his mind's jumping all over the place as, he watches the clouds go by and stuff like that. Maybe another thing that makes me appreciate this track is that once it gets into the spoken word part, he just tells this story that's so interesting, and I don't know whether to believe it or not, honestly. But he's talking about Mojave 3, or Mojave 3. If you know much about the shoegaze scene, you'll know that Slowdive broke up, and out of Slowdive, almost in the same way Joy Division turned into New Order, Slowdive turned into Mojave 3, and he talks about kissing Rachel Goswell backstage and how he's going to take that to his grave. And I just kind of like that romance, really. I'm a sucker for it.
And speaking of romance, I think one thing I actually really do and kind of like about the sound is like how much he talks about his girlfriend and how he loves her. It's like,
oh yeah,
it's kind of cute. It's like, oh, even though he's like, he's pushing 50, he's still, he's still in love.
She has, Laura, what's her name, has to wait in line.
Oh God, I don't. Okay, the one thing I didn't say that I just don't want to talk about with this album is I do not want to talk about the incident.
Although that kind of, in a way, that ties into the song too, because there's a point where he's talking about talking to someone from the audience who was like, do you really hate Nels Cline? Why did you say you hated Nels Cline? And he's like, oh no, I don't hate Nels Cline. It just rhymed with one word or the other. So it like shows that he's really not sincere about the stuff he's saying. And yes, it's destructive, and yes, it's just ridiculous, and it's just reckless and kind of stupid. But honestly, like, he's an artist. He has so much merit to him, so don't write him off just because of these stupid things he does.
And I knew it was going to come up at some point, but I guess I should give my general thoughts on it. I think this is a situation that I do not want to be one-sided on. I think that's the problem that we have, like, nowadays. Everyone, they just want to pick sides and go,
yeah,
I'm on this side. It's like, why don't we look at the situation as a whole and then kind of see where Mark is coming from and see where Laura Snapes is coming from? Where, to play devil's advocate for Mark, hey, he told this lady, hey, I just, again, the only interviews I do, I just want to do just no face to face, just over email. That's all I want to do. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't like, he said in the past he doesn't like doing interviews, and it's like, okay,
except for LP.
LP's
a fucking LP.
LP's the man though. Okay, LP's the man. But just sort of like he doesn't like doing a whole lot of face to face interviews, and he rarely does them. And then and then she's also talking to like his friends and family, and I would feel like my privacy's being invaded a little bit if that was going on. Like, hey, I didn't tell you could do this. Like, where I did, it's like, I definitely would feel like, but, his comments were definitely very inappropriate. Shouldn't have been said. If you wanted to talk about this, there's better ways to go about it. And, it's very unprofessional and just sort of like, come on, man, that's just not cool to do. But Laura Snapes, I think her response, at least in the article that she did make about it, was actually really fair. Like, that's probably like, she definitely could have went like way more off on it, but I think she's like, it's like, as a fellow journalist, it was like really nice to see her like have a little bit of integrity and go, okay, let me look at the situation like as if I was a journalist, where I have to be kind of more objective in my statements. So yeah.
And like on that side of it, I think that has a lot to do with his hesitance to have interviews, is journalistic integrity and the nature of journalism and how it's always been prying pretty much, and he doesn't want that as much, and he doesn't want, especially modern journalism, which is so fueled by clickbait, he doesn't want that to happen, really. He does, in a way he does, because he thinks it's funny. That's why all of that war on drugs stuff happened. But like, I don't know, I think the reason he was able to open up to LP was because LP makes music, and Sun Kill Moon makes music, that's his music thing, Mark Kozlek's music project, and so he is able to have this certain connection with LP that he can't have with a journalist, because they're pretty different in nature. But back to the record.
So do you want to make any quick comments on Kozlek Gate, Will?
I mean, I just think it's just dumb. Like, I could fit him to make a tweet like, Mark says something offensive, easily offended people get offended. Like, they give him attention. It's just like a symbiotic relationship. I mean, it's just like, yeah, he shouldn't have said it, but the whole situation just went out of proportion. It's just kind of bullshit pretty much to me. Just noise.
Which I do want to say, I don't think like people are like he's such a misogynist. It's like I don't. No, I mean, again,
I mean, that's more just an asshole thing than a misogynist.
I think he's just I mean, he's just kind of an asshole, and I'm like, I kind of really.
Which I don't know which is worse, being misogynist or an asshole.
I think being an asshole is not as bad.
I mean, they're not mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
I mean, you can be again. He's not a misogynistic asshole.
Like Lucia, yeah. I'm calling out Lucia here.
Uh-oh.
He's like, He says, I'm never going to support this man again after that incident. I'm like, that. Yeah, you're overreacting.
Yeah,
I feel kind of bad too because I bought Universal themes on CD. So I'm like, I don't know if I want to support this guy, but like, it's an independent musician, and like, I really enjoy this album, and I saw it on CD, and like, I really, and also I wanted the lyric sheet because none of the lyrics were online yet. And I was like, okay, I want to figure out what he's saying on this album. And the lyric sheet, which I may post it, or I may post a picture of it. It is huge. It's massive. I will, if I remember to edit it in the video, I will put it in there, and you can see how big it is.
Make that the background.
Yeah, it is. It's massive. But yeah. Anyways, let's go to the next track because
I'll start off with this one. I mean, something I haven't mentioned yet is that going back to what you've been listening to is that Steve Shelley from the Sonic Youth, he is the drummer on this album.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, and ultimately, it's not really that important just because it's very Mark centered. So I mean, drumming's pretty simple, and basic. But on this track, the guitar work, he goes back into the electric, into the distortion, and it's very distant. It has kind of a Sonic Youth influence on it, which I found kind of interesting, considering that he's collaborating with the Sonic Youth member.
Yeah,
and yeah, this one is also kind of one of the more mundane ones. Like I said earlier, he's talking about New Year's Day this year. He's pretty much just talking about being with his girlfriend, and there's just random cuts, like talking about the first chapter of the book about Maurice Ravel. Talk about Dan Engelberg dying, his dad's friend. Then ultimately, he's just talking about having a good time on New Year's Day in New Orleans with his wife, trying to avoid people traffic.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why, like, I know Fantano said he didn't like this track just because it was kind of, there wasn't really a point to it. And this is definitely one of those tracks where there might not be a point. But I think listen.
Yeah, the production and the instrumentation and just it saves it a bit more because it could have been like a Garden of Laughter, but like with the really interesting electric guitars and the drumming, it's like this is a weird track, and with sort of grace, like he brings that aggression in the subject matter with it. This one, he's pretty much doing the same mundane rambling, but with the electric guitar distortion and dissonance.
Mm-hmm. And it's just much more dynamic.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's funny, we were talking about Schizophrenia as a track. I honestly think Schizophrenia and Ollie Speaks 2 are like really similar musically. If you listen to just the way the chord progression is in Schizophrenia and like the riff basically is and how it is in Alley/Spinks 2, they're very similar.
Yes, I guess you need to listen to Sister, Matty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
get on that.
I will listen. I will listen to it this week. Hopefully, if you remind me a bunch.
I'll go Jeremiah on you.
Yeah, I'll get Jeremiah on me. But yeah, I enjoy this track. This rotation's nice, and it's just sort of like it's I think it's definitely one of the more stream of consciousness tracks where he's just like, it's like picture this. Okay, it's Marcos like we're walking with his girlfriend in New Orleans. You go into his mind, and this is just his thoughts. Like
basically,
this is what he's just thinking about.
Like he's thinking about actors that he thought were underrated. First stanza. Which is kind of boring, but like
I think it's just really funny. He's just like
that's what people think about. That's what like just the random things that I think about, and I think that you guys think about. Mm-hmm. So I mean, does that make for a good song? I don't know, but it is definitely a universal theme.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The one thing I would say about like if I had to rewrite the underrated actor part, I'd be like how the most underrated album of 2014 was Wonder Where We Land by Subtract. He had this really great self-titled album. And then everyone was like on this new album. But I'm like, this is really great, and it's like, why don't you guys like this? It's really varied and whatnot. Sorry, for some reason I really want to name check them because I talked about in the In Color discussion, and I want to talk about it again. It's such a great album.
What does it say? Say it one more time.
Wonder Where We Land by Subtract.
Oh, okay.
I don't get why people don't like this album. I don't get it. It's great. It's great. Like, I remember... Do you know the song New York?
Right, by Sinatra.
No, Okay, let's move on.
Yeah, but definitely by this album standards, this is the most straight up the middle. This down the middle.
Mm-hmm.
By this album standards, that is.
Yeah.
I like the way Ally/Spinks 2 kind of patters off at the end. The end is really... I appreciate the end on this song. Because, like, I don't know, the guitar goes out and then he just kind of singing and it almost feels like he goes, wait a minute, the guitar stopped and his voice just kind of goes down, which, you know, I'm sure that's not what he was doing, but that's how it sounds and I appreciate it. And then the song just kind of leaves off on a little drum.
Oh, one more thing I do have to mention about this is that I mean, obviously from the title, he's talking about boxing here. Now, I'm not as big a fan of boxing as Mark is, because I mean, Sun Kil Moon is based on an Asian boxer's name. So I mean, he's
Korean specifically.
Korean, yes. So I mean, I'm a casual fan. I watch this sometimes with my dad. I watch the major fights, but yeah, just kind of interesting. He talks about boxing a lot on this album. It's not the only song. It's pretty much all across the album. It's another one of Mark's universal themes is how much he loves boxing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. It's almost like he views concerts and boxing in the same ring, basically. I don't know. The way he approaches describing the two is a lot like boxing. And I almost feel like the way he performs is he views it as boxing. He's like, he's a boxer, the audience is a boxer. And he's like, take this, here's a great song. And then the audience might not clap, or they're not they're not engaged really, they're talking to each other. So they might say some asshole thing, it's like a sucker punch, and then their attention is back. And it's a boxer in a way. I think that's what this project is, which is why he named it after boxer, which is why he writes about boxing. And in this LP interview, he talked about like kind of how he relates to like a boxer, where a boxer like is usually it's a lonely sport, where like if you do something wrong, it's on you. Like it's not on like a group of like a team or anything like that. Like if you messed up, that's you. And like I kind of see that relating to music, where like if he makes a bad song or like he messes up like a chord or something while he's performing live, that's on him. That again, he messed up. Like that's not anyone else's fault. Like he fucked up, and it's just sort of like kind of like the art of like, how do I not fuck up? Which is just sort of sort of funny and whatnot. And,
it's also funny because he does. We were talking about earlier, like, he does fuck up a lot because like with his comments, like, oh yeah, very almost intentionals. So
okay, I don't want no more.
The last track.
No more Coslick Gate. We're not talking about it. Anyways, last track. This is my first day, and I'm Indian, and I work at a gas station. I guess I'll start
back
off.
To Switzerland.
And well, it goes all over the place. The funny thing with this track is that it seems like now like it's gonna be a tradition for Mark Coslick. Okay, every song, like every last song on my albums, it has to mention Big Gibbard at least once.
Yeah.
Again, Ben has to be in my last song on this album again, which sort of helps these sort of like the way people are comparing this album to Benji. It's like, well, Ben Gibbard, he's mentioned again on the last track, talking about how Ben's his friend. Where
it talks about he's happy in this last track.
Oh yeah,
Ben is my friend. Is pretty much the only happy track on Benji, besides for maybe the song about his dad. This is really this one's definitely one of the more upbeat ones.
And in this album, this track, it's a nice out to the album. It's very inspiring. It's just sort of like like it's just being like, he's just sort of like reflecting on like his life right now and just being like, I'm really happy with where I am in my life. I have great friends. I have a great girlfriend. My family's great. I have people who love me, and it's like I'm getting to play music around the world, and it's just sort of like if people don't like me, fuck them. This is the
most in the moment track on the album, or maybe that he's made in a while, just because like there's not many jump arounds. He just talks about the day, and he just goes about it's very chronological. This song, at least more so than most of his songs. It's just this one event after the other, after the other, after the other, and most of them aren't that interesting. It's really just his daily routines. So it also makes this one a little less, I guess, intriguing. but still, like I love the way it ends, and I still feel a little high from how good everything felt last night.
Wait, guys,
That's
no, wait, hold on. Sorry to interrupt you, Will. I'm reading the lyrics to this last track. The reason why it's called Birds of Flims is because the town that he filmed Youth in is called...
Because it's Switzerland.
It's filmed Switzerland. So it's not Birds of Films, it's Birds of Films as in the town of...
It's Birds of Flims.
Flims.
Because of Flims, Switzerland. But I feel like it's also intentional. I feel like he wanted it to be both, and I'm sure he noticed the fact that, I'm going to be filmed in Flim, and kind of thought about that for a while, probably on the airplane.
Oh my god, I'm so fucking stupid. Jesus Christ.
I didn't notice that either.
Yeah, most people didn't notice it. I've seen many times people all over the place referring to it as Birds of Flims, or Birds of Films instead of Flims. But yeah, I don't know. I like how he name drops a lot of people in this. He's like, Michael Caine, Jane Fonda.
Yeah, that casual conversation he has with Jane Fonda, that's pretty classic. Just like and I also had a this kind of interesting. He's kind of like my dad. Like he'll just like recall a conversation he has with someone and like in detail, like as if you're interested in their conversation. But since he's talking to Jane Fonda, it's slightly more interesting.
Yeah, and talks about watching HBO, which is really great.
HBO, that's another thing he comes up with a lot. He talks about watching with Caroline. That's what they did, HBO together.
So yeah, this track it's really nice and inspiring, and it's just sort of talks about Ben. And it's like, it's sort of like it talks about sort of things he's been able to do in the last couple of years because of Benji, I guess. Like he spent $17,000 on the Mayweather Pacquiao fight, like getting tickets, I guess, and it's just it's a very reflective track. Just thinking about like his day and just sort of like his past year of like just being extremely blessed to be in in some of these situations. I guess like I'm maybe this is my third wave of like this is probably the most known I've been since maybe my Red House Painters day. And it's like and then he talks about his performing with Ben, and it's kind of like a funny juxtaposition to Ben's my friend, where he's watching Ben perform. And now he's got to, like, perform with Ben and, like, make sure he doesn't mess up. And, like, he's talking about being fearful of, like, messing up guitar chords. But it's, like, it went perfectly. My girlfriend was there. His girlfriend was there. It was just, like, they loved the performance. It was, just really happy and great. And then, he talks... And then I heard someone talking about this, like, a review. I think it was on Tumblr, which, Tumblr, she was talking about, like, this track with... It's, like, where he's talking about still having a flip phone and then, like... This guy who was introduced as like the smartest guy in the world, he also has the same flip phone and being all like, And she tried turning it into it's like he's just like he's so like selfish and like so narcissistic, like comparing it to he's just like he's the smartest guy in the world. He has the same phone as me. Suck it. It's like no, it's just like a funny little coincidence in life.
No matter what, he steals a shitty phone, so the joke's still on him.
And like the line right after that is talking about those girls who notice and like talk about how he can tell that they think they're gross phones. It's basically him realizing that this isn't the smartest guy in the world. Or even if he is, he has a shitty phone too. Like it's him. Getting down from that fantasy world, getting down from narcissism and like over the topness and how we sometimes view the world. It's like the exact opposite of how that person saw it. Really, he's realizing, this guy's a person.
Mm-hmm. And then the last song of the last line of the album, it's February 24th, and I still feel a little high from how good everything felt last night. It's just being like I had a really great night last night, and yeah, like. It's just a very happy end to the album. Like, I'm just being blessed. Like, I'm happy to be in this position where I am in my life, where I have I'm able to perform music with some of my best friends, and and have people who love it. And it's just like that's really inspiring.
Yeah.
So, do you guys have any like final comments on this song? And we kind of go into thoughts on the album.
I would like to say personally that like the way. I don't know. I appreciate how he'll be telling the story, but then he'll take a break to have this interesting image of some way. Like there's a line about I think wind blowing through eucalyptus trees, and it's just like he gives us these images to describe the way he was feeling and like the sights he was seeing while he was just on this emotional euphoric high of being with people he admired and getting to have a good time with them. And though he was anxious coming into it, he just had such a good time and it worked out well. And it was really poignant and really humble, which isn't something people view him as, but I think he really is somewhat of a humble person, though he gets excited sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you have anything to say?
Not about this track. I mean, we go on our final verdicts.
Okay, so we'll talk about final. Let's go on final. What do you think, Will?
Okay, I'm gonna go Stephen Francis mode. The record spins. I'm gonna preface by saying Benji was a great record, but no, actually, I did like this album a lot. If we had done this podcast last weekend, I would have been just where you guys are, like absolute adoration. And I did like this album a lot, but just on replay value, it hasn't been quite as effective for me. Like the first 2 or 3 listens have been more accepted, more affecting than my maybe 5th or 6th listens. Just because, I mean, obviously he's telling stories, so once you've heard the stories, either there's little nuggets to pick out, mostly it's just kind of the same. So it's in a way it's a little less interesting. And also, just I don't want to call them gimmicks because they're done well and everything, but still, I mean, just like. Part of like it definitely was probably the most like intriguing first listen I've had all year of an album, just because of all the instrumental shifts. It just kind of you're all 70 minutes you're left guessing, wondering what he'll do next.
Mm-hmm.
But then after, like it's definitely a great album, but once you've heard what he's going to do next, there's not quite as much there to enjoy. So I mean, this is definitely one of my favorite albums of the year, but just the replay value isn't high enough for me to call like one of the absolute best.
And I think that's kind of funny because actually I think this album is, to me at least, has a bunch of replay value compared to Benji. I think this album actually is better than Benji in my opinion, just because where Benji had a little bit like some people were defending the corniness, and there's some definitely really corny songs on Benji, and I think that's still a positive of the record where it's like, hey, life is kind of corny sometimes when you talk about these things. Like, yeah, when you talk about how much you love your dad, it's gonna be a little corny, but like. Where this album, I like the fact that it's experimental. It's like
right. That's what made it such a great first listen.
Instead of making a different instead of just making another Benji, he's like let me just do some new things. Let me try out some new things. I really love the songwriting. The stream of consciousness is like it really works for me, and I don't think he's boring on this album. I think he's able to make these really mundane things really sort of like interesting and like keeping me as a focused listener throughout almost all, if not most, of the album. And I really enjoy this album. I guess we kind of went through everything during the track by track stuff.
Yeah, and building off of what you just said, Matty, I feel like that really shows a lot about the songs that don't really keep you pulled in and keep you paying attention, because in those songs where you have the chance, it's almost like ambient in a way. You just kind of drift off. You don't pay much attention. Those are the songs where he's doing the exact same thing, and his lyrics aren't cohesive in any way. He's just spattering off what he's thinking in his mind, and it mirrors exactly what the listener is often doing in those tracks, especially if you're replaying it. If this is one of your multiple listens, which for me, I've already listened to it. Like I woke up to it the last few weeks of my school year, like every morning, and I've been listening to it before bed almost every night. I don't know, I've been listening to this a lot, and I think I probably will. And to me personally, there's a lot of replay value here. My personal verdict, as I've said already, quite possibly my album of the year.
Alright, so we should give ratings or head ratings. I'm gonna give this album a of Mark Kozlik's Tears, collected from the bathroom. That's my rating.
I'm gonna give this 7.5 War and Peace's heads while waiting in line.
And Keaton, your head rating?
I would say my head rating is something along the lines of me and Mark Kozlik must have the same head because we think about the exact same things.
Yeah, okay. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this week's podcast. The song of the week this week is going to be Little Rascals.
Yeah.
Okay with that?
Yeah, well, sure. I mean, usually it's one of the singles, but I guess we didn't talk about it. So yeah, sure. Little Rascals, let's go.
Yeah, so anyway, this week is Little Rascals by Sunko Moon. Hope you guys enjoyed listening to the podcast this week, and see ya.
Bless.